Hey chillers, welcome back to my channel. So, it is Wednesday, which means it is spooky day. Dun dun dun. First off, I want to apologize for not recording on Monday. I totally slipped my mind. I completely forgot about it. And I apologize. Okay. So today I am doing part 2 to I Was Born into a Cult. I will link to part 1 at the end of this video, and I'll leave a description or link down below in the description. So let's get started. A lot of the years were blurred. Oh yeah, I have my computer sitting over here. My phone is charging over there. A lot of the years were a blur after my confirmation. My memory gets a little hazy sometimes considering the unchanging role I had for several years. This in no way mitigates anything I did, but it is important for my own well-being to remind myself I was practically a zombie then. After killing the dissident, I was officially an adult in the society. My parents had done their job and raised a productive member. Their part was done. I was now another organ of the greater cause. I was stationed at the barracks with the other enforcers. I had no say in being an enforcer. It was my predetermined role. Nobody chooses their role. I guess I should be grateful I wasn't picking crops or cleaning up stuff like the poor people that were conned into joining. I should be even more grateful I wasn't chosen to be a rat in the lab of Dr. Ferris. More on that later. Okay? In all honesty, being an enforcer wasn't all action, killing, and torture. Most of it just involved guard post patrols and motivating workers to do better. Sorry, I'm scratching my foot. However, it was not an easy life. First of all, there was the rigid structure of the life, the same rigid sleep and wake-up times, the self-criticism seminars. And there was the fact that we were not friends with anyone, not even each other. You see, there were incentives to inform on one another. Reporting someone for heresy yielded the reward of enlightenment. But even that wasn't the worst part of the duty. The worst part was the commander of the enforcers, Jeff Warren. He was probably one of the meanest people I've ever met. One time I saw him break the legs of a fleeing member just to watch them try and crawl away. He finally bashed their head in with his rifle after getting bored. A lot of us were disgusted by his wanton brutality, but nobody had the guts to speak up. I would eventually have my share of experience with him too. I didn't kill anyone for a couple years after starting my career. Hold on, I just want to see how long. Alright, sorry about that. I didn't kill anyone for a couple years after starting my career, but it was only a matter of time. I committed my second killing on a warm summer night in 1990. I was on patrol duty that night. I spent the better part of the night patrolling the compound walls, rifle at the ready, just as I had been doing for 6 uneventful months. But tonight, something happened. I heard footsteps below and found an escapee in my flashlight. I didn't even hesitate. I just opened fire. Part of me did because it was my training. The other part did so out of fear for what would happen to me if I didn't do my job. Heck of a shot. I whirled around to see a fellow enforcer, Mary. The two of us had become pretty good friends in the last few months. Well, friends was a frowned upon term in the town, but we were definitely on good terms. Just doing my job, I said simply. It was true. Anything less would be abdication of my post. So modest, she smiled. Modesty is a key aspect of enlightenment. I did my best to brush off these thinly veined flirtations. After all, one needed approval to form a union or procreate. Ugh. I was commended for the successful killing. The only thing worse about remembering murder is having been rewarded for it. Yet another face that sometimes haunts my dreams. I actually didn't kill anyone for 5 years after that, although I did out a fellow enforcer for being critical of Carrington. He disappeared afterwards, but I know I basically signed his death warrant. My next physical killing came in 1995, and this one was a big deal. This wasn't just some pissant recruiter realizing their mistake and trying to flee. This was a born member renouncing her life's teachings and successfully escaping the town. This is one of my most vivid memories. It was the weekly sermon in the town's church. Carrington was giving a speech about the existence of other worlds and the fluidity of our own dimension. All was normal when one of our born members, Sister Gwen, stood up suddenly. Lies. It's all lies, she screamed. Everybody froze, petrified with shock. Some members' mouths were agape in disbelief. This is the only world meant for us. The others are inhospitable, not meant for contact. I think they meant. She continued. Silence, you heretic, Carrington hissed. Carrington came into contact with beings from another world and was permanently disabled. We aren't meant to interact. They keep saying met. Sister Carrington shouted. Kill the insolent traitor. She spits in all our faces, came the telepathic order from an infuriated Carrington. Gwen was dumbstruck, as if she only just realized the gravity of what she had done. With a look of fear, she turned and ran out the doors of the church. Groups of enforcers were quickly mobilized to hunt her down. As luck would have it, I was the one that found her. This was my first time in my life I had left the compound, but I wasn't exactly lost. During my education and training, I had seen maps, and had learned how to track people. When people flee in a panic territory, they tend to leave an easy trail. There was no exception of that expectation. I found Gwen in an abandoned shed. Into the line, traitor, I said as I aimed my rifle at her. Please, I was trying to save people. I was as devout as the rest of you, but I couldn't keep quiet upon learning the truth, she pleaded. This isn't my choice. Carrington wants you dead. Please, I run away and never return. Carrington is evil. It's not up to me, I said bluntly as I pulled the trigger. A third face to plague my dreams. When I returned to the town, I saw all of the members were packed in the square. In the center of the square were Gwen's relatives, her parents, 2 brothers, and her son. I returned in time to hear the end of a speech being given by Carrington. As always, it was only his voice. The bloodline of that wretched traitor is impure. It must be cleansed from our creed. By decree, I order that all blood relatives of the heretic be purged immediately. Brother Jeff, this honor shall be yours. Carrington's voice sounded more intimidating than ever before at that moment. Jeff Warren smiled as he stepped forward. Other enforcers shoved all 5 of the guilty by association family to their knees. One by one, Warren coldly pulled the trigger. But when he got to Gwen's husband, the last one, the gun jammed. Not to be deterred, Warren simply pulled out his knife and cut the man's throat. To this day, I'm thankful I didn't have to conduct that execution, but that day still had a strong effect on me. Gwen must have felt strongly in her beliefs to have espoused so much. Come on, you can get this. To have espoused such views, and her family sure was together in their last moments, not just physically, but emotionally. For the first time ever, I found myself questioning the restrictions on family and relationships. Perhaps these things were not egocentric and blasphemous, but still I walked the straight and narrow. But my beliefs would be further tested in the coming years. The year was 1997, and I was one of 4 enforcers chosen for an assassination. An assassination outside of our base and outside of the Appalachians as well. One of our recruiters had messed up. Not only had he failed to entice a teen into joining our cause, but he had put us in the crosshairs. The teen's father was a private investigator, and he had done a lot of digging and found a lot of dirt. If he wasn't stopped, if he went to the press, it would be over for us. Before leaving for this assassination, we were sent to meet with Dr. Ferris. He aged like milk. In his late 50s, with a receding hairline and a predatory smile, he looked creepier than ever. Even creepier was his glee as he handed us 4 syringes of a mysterious liquid. Inject him with this. Dead or alive, it doesn't matter. Ferris said, this concoction will destroy their brains and remove their bodies from existence. Don't even ask how it works. Your underdeveloped minds couldn't even begin to comprehend this masterpiece. This is exactly why everybody hated him. I swear, he would really have benefited from a fedora. Of course, no snide remarks were made in retaliation. We simply took the syringes and left his lab. The four of us, Jeff, myself, and 2 others, made the drive in about 8 hours, arriving in the middle of the night as planned. Obtaining entry was easy, easier than it should have been. People really need to be more conscious of security. The other 2 acted as lookouts while Jeff and I made our way through the house. We found the room in the team first, the one that had been the focus of the failed recruiting. Jeff clamped a hand over his mouth while I jammed the syringe into his neck. It was a phenomenal effect to behold. The teen's body glowed green, pulsed several times, and vanished. By the looks of it, it was a very painful process. With this deed done, we moved on, finding the master bedroom next. My needle, without fail, found its way into the investigator's wife. The investigator was more difficult. He woke up and attempted to make a break for it, but I punched him in the face, sending him tumbling back to Jeff. Jeff jammed the syringe into him. As he faded from this realm, he said one thing: save the children. That was the latest of moments to make me question life. My life. But this wasn't the time to get cold feet. We barged into the last room, finding the remaining son. I pulled out my gun, wanting to give him a merciful aim, but Jeff was having none of it. Didn't they ever tell you not to waste a bullet? He scoffed at me as he grabbed the last son and injected him, smiling the whole time. This was wrong. This man had a family, and this family was supportive enough to have rejected our cult. He hadn't been dissident or selfish. Heck, the father had thought of others and not himself in death. Having family isn't egocentric. I had been misled. This revelation forced me into a meditative state on the ride back to base. I wanted to have personal relations, but I also didn't want to abandon everything I knew. Eventually, a compromise crossed my mind. Mary. We had been as close to friends as we could be in the last few years. Maybe she would take this leap with me. She did. For the first time in my 27 years, my life had personal meaning, but it wasn't to be. We refused to think this would work out for us. We saw each other when possible, but our cover was blown when she became pregnant. Well, hers was. She refused to give me up. I owe her my life for that. Having children or relations without approval was a serious offense. I'd have been executed along with her if she had betrayed me. This was the final straw for me. An individual, in an act of selflessness, had saved me. This was the 3rd time I'd seen family and camaraderie. This wasn't egocentric. It was human nature. I had been lied to my entire life. I had to get out of this cult. I bided my time, hoping I wouldn't have to kill in the meantime. I was always vigilant for a chance to escape. For 3 years, I kept my eyes open for a chance. And for 3 years, nothing happened. It's a miracle I wasn't killed in those years. I came across 3 members trying to flee and let them each time. All 3 were hunted down anyway. But I tried. In the year 2000, a wrench was thrown into my escape plans. I was so angry at the injustice I had perpetuated and that still surrounded me. The prospect of another family execution was too much for me to bear. Family 3 had been condemned to die for the shocking crime of refusing to separate on the child's 18th birthday. Once again, Warren was the executioner. Something inside me snapped as I saw the 3 ready themselves for demise. I had lost of escaping, and I decided I'd rather die doing something right than aid evil for another day. I charged and tackled Warren before he could pull the trigger. He dropped his pistol, and I picked it up as I pinned him. Gasps erupted around me. "What are you—" Warren began. "Shut your mouth," I shouted as I pressed his own gun to his head. "You've killed children, reveled in torturing innocents. Enlightenment is bound in blood. You know this," Warren smiled. "Well, it's time for my own enlightenment and redemption," I replied as I pulled the trigger. splattering Warren's blood on the ground. Stunned silence was ended by shouting from some enforcers, and I was quickly subdued. I was dragged down to the depths of the bunker. I thought I was getting taken to certain death. I would have welcomed it at that point. I was about to face something much worse. I was about to be thrust into rock bottom. And that ends part 2 of I Was Born into a Cult. I'm glad he came around in the end and was able to try to escape, and he did something good in the end. I think they're gonna add a part 3 to this. If there is, I'll record it for you. If you enjoyed this video, well, this is where I'm gonna end this video. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up so I know. Click my bell to subscribe to my channel. You can click here to see part 1 if you missed it. And you can click there to see my last video. And I will see you guys on Friday for Challenge Day, which I am going to be finding out what wand I need to get instead of my Patronus. I told a fib in the last video. Alright, see you guys on Wednesday. Peace out, chillers.